25 laps the distance for the late models. And on the pole is Roy French in the 99. Outside, Jim Barton. Row 2, it's Chris Durkee and Joe Thomas. Then it is Dave Whitcomb and Gene Paul Sear. Watch out for Gene Paul Sear in the 32. Scott Carpenter and Dwayne Lanfear, row 4. Peter Fecto and Danny Bridges in row 5. Then it is Mark Lanfear and Steve Renadette in row 6. Steve Miller and Brent Dragon, row 7. Row 8, Buck O'Branham and Tom Tiller. Then Dennis Demers and Brian Hoare. Lonnie Lacklade and Red Mead. Back to row 11, Glenn Wright and Wild Bill Fountain in the 7 of Gary Godin. Jimmy Barton will lead the first lap. Tight action all around the racetrack. Peter Fecto a little bit loose into 1 as he was squeezed by the 40 of Dwayne Lanfear. Down the backstretch, Roy French is hung on the outside, and we've seen all night that that is not the place to be. He's going to go backwards. At the front of the pack, Joe Thomas looks on the outside of Jimmy Barton. Thomas, can he do it down the backstretch? The Ford Thunderbird pulls even with the 57 of Barton. The yellow is out. Caution comes out on the speedway as we had a incident up in turn 2. Brian Hoare involved, Mark Lanfear involved, the Kentucky Colonel Tom Tiller also involved. Steve, I did not have a view of that. Did you see what happened up in turn 2?
They went into 1, and someone got a piece of Dan Bridges, sent him sideways. Bridges corrected it, but in the process of doing so, the other cars behind him, not knowing where he was going, all kind of turned in the same direction, and a few of them came in contact.
2 laps are in the books. Jimmy Barton with a good start. He holds the lead. Joe Thomas looking very strong down the backstretch. The Kentucky Colonel Tom Tiller goes into the pits. 2 laps are down. We'll see if he will rejoin the field. The leader is Jim Barton. Joe Thomas is 2nd, Chris Durkee 3rd, Dave Whitcomb 4th, and Scott Carpenter 5th. Set to restart. The only casualty is the 0 of Brent Dragon. Dragon sat 4th coming into tonight's racing action. So he is going to go down in the point standings. Jimmy Barton and Joe Thomas in row 1, Chris Durkee and Dave Whitcomb row 2. Then it is the 36 of Scott Carpenter and the 32 of Gene Paul Sear in row 3. Then Roy French and Dwayne Lanfear in row 4. We have a slow start. They come down to the green. And the green is out. Joe Thomas with a great start around Jimmy Barton. A great jump for the Ford driver. Thomas into the lead down the backstretch. Look out. Dave Whitcomb very quick also. He looks to get around the 57 of Barton on the outside. A great start for Joe Thomas. Whitcomb shoots by Jimmy Barton into 2nd. Barton to 3rd, Durkee 4th, Carpenter 5th, Sear 6th, Dwayne Lanfear 7th, Fecto 8th, Steve Miller 9th, and it is Dennis Demers in 10th. 3 wide between 3 and 4. Roy French, Steve Renadette, and Danny Bridges. Trouble up in turn 3 and 4. Lonnie Lacklade and Brian Hoare. Lacklade is off in turn 3. We'll see if they throw the yellow. Meanwhile, back at the front, very tight action for the lead. Joe Thomas and Dave Whitcomb. Whitcomb looks to the inside of Thomas. Thomas cuts it down in front. Both of these veteran drivers here at Airborne Speedway. Down the backstretch, Thomas and Whitcomb. The yellow is out. The field puts Lonnie Lacklade a lap down, and then they come out with the yellow flag. So the caution flies. That'll slow the field down and give the safety crews time to get Lonnie Lacklade moving once again. But Steve Hayes, what a jump for Joe Thomas as he flew by the 57 of Jimmy Barton on the restart.
Wow, Joe did a great job, but I'm keeping my eyes on 25 of Dave Whitcomb, who was even a row farther back. He really exploded. He is challenging Joe pretty seriously for that top spot right now.
5 laps down, 20 to go as you get a look at the 45 car of Brian Hoare. Brian's first week at the track. Wonder where his father is this week. He's going to lose the points lead. The question is, to who? Set to restart as you see the field slowly down the backstretch. We'll see if Dave Whitcomb can pull off what Joe Thomas pulled off on Jim Barton. A slow pace down the backstretch as you get a good shot of the field. Now back up to the front as we check the restart. 5 laps are down, 20 to go. A couple of red ones on the front row. It is Thomas and Whitcomb down for the green. Another good start for Joe Thomas on the inside, but Whitcomb stays right with him. Side by side down the backstretch. Thomas in the 66, Whitcomb in the 25. They are dead even through 3 and 4. Thomas pushes them up high, and they come down the front stretch. It is going to be Joe Thomas by about 6 inches. Side by side battle. Out of 2. Looking to oh, look out, Whitcomb is loose. Whitcomb is sideways in front of the field, look out! Jimmy Barton is over the top. Gene Paul Sear, Danny Bridges, Steve Miller. Whitcomb got loose in front of the whole field, and my goodness, Jimmy Barton went over the top. Barton, an innocent victim. The red flag is on the field quickly. Safety crews go over to check out the parties involved, but Jimmy Barton, Steve Hayes, an innocent victim as Whitcomb got loose. And I don't think there was much contact between the 66 and the 25. I just think the 25 got loose on the outside and he spun in front of the field. And when you're in second place, spinning right in front of the field, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. Dave Whitcomb tried a couple of groups, couldn't make it work, tried to overdrive a little bit, tried one of those fantastic moves. Unfortunately, several cars paid for it, and most obviously the 57 machine of Jimmy Barton, who went up and over. The trouble is, Barton would probably A-OK, but while he was out at top, took a hard lick on the side, so some genuine concern. Hopefully everything's A-OK, but a definitely terrible sight as Barton rolled the automobile on top and then got collected while he was on his top.
Dan Bridges is out of his car. Steve Miller checking under the hood of the 00. The 25 of Dave Whitcomb is parked on the backstretch facing the scoreboard. The red flag is on the field, as we mentioned earlier. Jimmy Barton appears to be okay as he is walking off. Barton is walking off to the pits under his own power, so he appears to be in good shape. Dave Whitcomb also appears to be fine. But we're going to take a break here. There are 6 laps complete. I'll tell you what we'll do when they get that 25 on the right side. We'll have cameraman Greg Zindler give you a shot of it. So stay tuned, we'll come back for that.
The crew chief on out on the field is Jimmy's daughter, Damien. If she is not a Duncan crew chief, she'll take that car apart and put it back together and all by herself. Unfortunately, she's going to get a lot of work.
Steve Hayes, we get a shot of Jim Barton's car being towed off, and the sheet metal is just all over the place, and they're going to have a lot of work to get it back together.
Well, sheet metal can be scattered all at once. The most important thing is, if you look at it, the roll cage is intact, and now you know why it is required to have a very strong roll cage.
Dave Whitcomb has been towed into the pits. Apparently Danny Bridges is going to have to go up on the wrecker. Here's a better look of the 57, what is left of the 57 Jim Barton car. Danny Bridges is now rolling away, as apparently he might have been a little bit stuck in the mud over there. And someone who had ran very well, or was running very well tonight, the 32 of Gene Paul Sear, he apparently also will have to go up on the hook.
Yeah, Jean-Paul was having a good night going, but this incident, he is actually the one who came in contact with Barton in the initial contact. Another car that had suffered some problems, the 00 Miller retired to the pits. He had just returning, but I don't know what kind of condition that car's in for a Triple Crown.
All right, 6 laps are down, 19 to go, and we'll have a restart when we come back. Almost set to restart. Joe Thomas will set the pace. Outside is Scott Carpenter. Row 2, Dwayne Lanfear and Chris Durkee. Row 3, Peter Fecto and Dennis Demers. Back to row 4, it is Steve Renadette and Bucko Branham. Row 5, Roy French and Mark Lanfear. Row 6, Tom Tiller and Tony Poisson. Set for a restart. Joe Thomas has been great on these restarts. Let's see this time. Again, even Steven into one. Down the backstretch, Thomas and Carpenter side by side. Thomas on the inside, Carpenter on the outside. You can cover them with a blanket at the front of the pack. Down to the stripe, and it is dead even. Look out, Thomas drifts high into one. Bangs the 36 and starts to pull away down the backstretch. Dwayne Lanphier looks underneath Carpenter for second. Look out, Thomas is loose. Dwayne Lanphier from third to first. Look out! Scott Carpenter goes around in front of the field. Everybody spreads out, looking to get around. Tiller spins out. Roy French is in the infield. The 17, Lonnie Lacklade, is in the infield. And what a move by Dwayne Lanphier coming out of 4 as Joe Thomas was loose. Lanphier ducking underneath from third to first. Carpenter got loose after he touched with the 66 of Joe Thomas. And Steve, I think Joe Thomas was a little bit loose coming out of 4 and was never quite back together down the front stretch.
No, absolutely not, and he got tapped, which straightened him out, but it only made matters worse because when Carpenter got a piece of it, he took the car in turn 1 already partially sideways, just couldn't control it. When he finally lost it, a lot of cars had to scatter.
All right, now 8 laps in the books, and we're going to have some highlight film after this. The leader will be Dwayne Lanphier. Joe Thomas will be in the second spot, and I'll tell you, wherever Joe Thomas has been in this feature, that's where the action has been.
The birthday boy is jinxing some of his competitors, unfortunately, but I'll tell you what, this is the wrong night for a lot of this to happen. These guys have to load their cars up, bring them to Thunder Road opening day tomorrow, and there's some cars that are not going to make it.
Quietly up to 4th is Bucko Branham. We'll keep our eye on him when we restart this late model feature. Eight laps complete. And the lineup is as follows. Dwayne Lanphier and Joe Thomas in row 1. Peter Fecto and Steve Renadette row 2. Chris Durkee, Bucko Branham row 3. They move Branham back to the 6th spot. Mark Lanphier and Tony Poissant row 4. Glenn Wright and Steve Miller row 5. Lonnie Lacklade, Red Mead row 6. Then it is Billy Fountain and Danny Bridges in row 7. Tom Tiller and Brent Dragon row 8. Scott Carpenter, Brian Hoare row 9. Roy French, Lance Furno row 10. Shotgun is Dennis Demers. Joe Thomas on the outside, again trying to get the fast start. Look out, more sideways. Oh my goodness, Bucko Branham is parked in the infield. Chris Durkee is parked in the infield. Lonnie Lacklade is parked in the infield. Joe Thomas is at the front, and they're going to keep him going. Branham tries to get out in front of the field. Don't do that, Bucko. Chris Durkee manages to get it going. Branham finally pulls back onto the track. Lonnie Lacklade is still parked in turn 2. It is now Joe Thomas, Steve Renata, Dwayne Lanphier, Steve Miller from 10th to 4th in 1 lap. Tony Poissant is 5th, Peter Fecto 6th, Danny Bridges 7th, Red Mead 8th, Mark Lanphier 9th, and Tom Tiller is up to 10th. Now the yellow is out. After they put Lonnie Lacklade a lap down, Chris Durkee does a good job because he will stay on the lead lap and will now resume at the tail end of the field. And that time, Steve, I think there was some dirt on the inside of the track, and clearly that time on the restart, the inside groove was the slower groove.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I mean, the leader got loose, and then the cars all the inside got loose, and you can't tell me they all got loose at the same time coincidentally. So, you know, the guy who really got penalized, I mean, Lacklade lost a lap. Durkee didn't lose a lap, but he's going to pit it and get looked at. Bucko lost a lap, and it's just unfortunate. It's one of those victim of circumstance things.
Now 10 laps in the books, 15 to go. Joe Thomas is the leader from 10th place to 4th place in 2 laps.
Yeah, well, that spin didn't hurt his chances, but Miller's moving up through the field, no doubt. Tony Poinso's having a great race. He sits 5th. Glenn Wright, we commented on the last break, he is definitely moving up with a 48, so it could be a chance for maybe an upset. Who knows?
All right, we'll have the restart when we come back. Joe Thomas and Steve Renadette make up row 1. Dwayne Lanfear and Steve Miller in row 2. Row 3, Tony Poisson, a good job in the 42. And outside, the 75 of Peter Fecto. Danny Bridges and Red Mead, a couple of Thunderbirds, make up row 4. Then it is Tom Tiller and Mark Lanfear, Scott Carpenter and Bill Fountain in row 6, Dennis Demers and Glenn Wright, row 7, Brian Hoare and Lance Furno, row 8, Roy French and Brent Dragon, row 9. Green is out on the field. And Steve Renadette very quick on the outside. Drifts high out of 2, and he makes it stick. He takes the lead away from Joe Thomas. Miller looks to move around the outside of Joe Thomas as well. Into 3, out of 4, it's going to be Renadette down to the line with the lead. Thomas is second. Dwayne Lanfear and Miller battle for third. Down the backstretch, the battle is for third place. Miller on the outside, Lanfear on the inside. Lanfear has that inside line, but look out, Miller is loose. Miller goes around. Everybody on the brakes. The field keeps moving. Mark Lanfear, also another innocent victim. Miller gets it going once again. Field coming down to the line. Halfway. Miller has a flat tire. He will go a lap down. He has a left rear flat tire. Mark Lanfear has gone a lap down. The battle is at the front. Steve Renadette, Joe Thomas, Dwayne Lanfear. They are the top 3. Down the backstretch, it is Renadette by a car length, now 2 car lengths over Thomas. Renadette, Thomas, Dwayne Lanfear, Fecto, and the 5th spot is Red Mead. In the 76, looking to become the first repeat winner here at Airborne this season. The field seems to be settling out somewhat, as this has been the longest green racing that we have had. Renadette is starting to pull away. Joe Thomas holds on to the 2nd spot. I think Lanfear has the faster car sitting in 3rd, but he has not been able to find a way around Thomas. Renadette now leads by 5 car lengths over Thomas in the 2nd spot. Dwayne Lanfear pounding the bumper of Joe Thomas, but he cannot find a way around the Plattsburgh veteran. Let's set the field. It is Renadette, Thomas, Dwayne Lanfear, Fecto, Red Mead. That is the top 5. Tony Poisson is 6th. Danny Bridges 7th. Tom Tiller 8th. And 9th is Dennis Demers. 10th is Scott Carpenter. Steve Miller, lap traffic, drifts high, lets the leaders move by underneath. 5 to go for Steve Renadette. He now leads. Oh, we have a spin. Chris Durkee spins, and he keeps it going. I don't think we'll have a caution. Down the front stretch, Renadette with a huge commanding lead. Lanfear trying to get around Thomas. Steve Miller, even though he's lap traffic, he's right in the middle of it. Look out! Peter Fecto and Red Mead to come together. Great job of driving by Red Mead to keep it on the track. Wow, we've had action all over the track in this one. 2 to go now for Steve Renadette. Lanfear to the inside of Thomas. Thomas tucked it down. Dwayne Lanfear pounding on the back bumper of Joe Thomas. Now looks high down the backstretch. Thomas has done a great job holding off Lanfear. The white flag flies for Renedette. He should be the winner of the race. The battle will be for second. Fecto sits right on Lanfear's bumper as he looks for third. Thomas pulls away down the backstretch. Coming down for the checkers is Steve Renedette. They touch for third. Thomas is second. Fecto third. Dwayne Lanfear fourth. Red Mead fifth. Danny Bridges sixth. Seventh to Tom Tiller. Scott Carpenter eighth. Tony Poissant ninth. Dennis Demers, I believe, brings it home 10th, with Brian Hoare coming home in the 11th spot. And whew, let me catch my breath. Steve Hayes, say something.
Oh, that was definitely exciting. Not the battle for the lead. There was no battle. Renedette got in front, and, well, that was it. A battle for third coming off turn 4. Dwayne Lanfear got just loose enough that Pete Fecto got to the inside, bumped him over. Fecto took third. Of course, we sat with Joe Thomas in between with a fine second-place finish. So it was a very exciting race, and we're just thankful that there were no injuries in that because there was a lot of heavy contact.
The top 5, Red Mead takes home 5th, Dwayne Lanfear 4th, Peter Fecto 3rd, Joe Thomas 2nd, and there is the winner, the 76 of Steve Renedette. Quite a race, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay with us. There's one more event on the card.